We all know who Warren Buffett is, right? A billionaire many times over. But the story of his first million? Well, that's where the real playbook is. It's not a story about luck, it's a system. So, how on earth did a 25-year-old guy from Omaha pull it off?
Okay, so this was the exact challenge a young Warren Buffett faced back in 1956. He started with about $174,000. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, that's a lot of cash, especially back then. It's like having almost $2 million today. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is the explosive growth. How in the world do you 5x that kind of money in just 6 short years?
I mean, just look at this timeline. The speed is incredible. He kicks off his partnership in '56, and bam, by 1962, he's a millionaire. And get this, he wasn't just getting lucky with a rising market. Nope. In 1957, the whole market was going down, but he was making money. That right there tells you this wasn't luck. It was a system. And to really get that system, we've got to go back, way back, to a pretty painful lesson he learned when he was just a kid.
So long before he was the Oracle of Omaha, he was just a kid. And like a lot of us, he made a classic rookie mistake. A mistake that, it turned out to be the thing that shaped his entire investing philosophy.
So picture this. He's 11 years old. He makes his very first trade. He buys a few shares of this company's city service. And what happens immediately? The stock drops. Of course it does. A nervous young Warren hangs on for dear life. When it finally climbs back up to $40 a share, he sells. He locks in a tiny $5 profit. He probably felt like a genius for about 5 minutes, because then he had to sit there and watch that same stock, his stock, soar. It didn't just go up a little. It rocketed to over $200 a share. Can you imagine? He made $5, but he missed out on a fortune. That one experience, that gut punch, was probably more valuable than any money he could have made on that trade.
So that feeling, that agony, it burned 2 critical lessons into his brain. Lesson 1, don't let the market's daily freakouts scare you away from a good company. And lesson 2, don't be in such a hurry to take a tiny profit if you still believe in the business. Basically, patience isn't just a nice idea. For Buffett, it became his superpower.
Okay, so that childhood mistake set the stage, right? But the guy who gave him the actual instruction manual, the secret code to turn those painful lessons into a money-making machine, that was his mentor, the legend himself, Benjamin Graham. And this right here was rule number 1, the margin of safety. Now, this isn't just about buying cheap stocks. It's a hardcore, non-negotiable discipline. You have to do the homework. You figure out what a business is actually worth, its real intrinsic value. And then, and this is the key, you refuse to buy it unless the market is having a fire sale and offering it to you at a huge discount. Graham's famous analogy, you're looking to buy $1 for 50 cents. See, your first thought isn't how much can I make, it's how can I make sure I don't lose.
Graham also gave him a genius way to stay sane through all the chaos. It's this story about a guy called Mr. Market. Just imagine the stock market is your business partner. But this partner is a bit moody. He's totally manic-depressive. Some days he runs into the office, euphoric, shouting about how everything's amazing and offers to buy your shares for way more than they're worth. Other days he's curled up in a corner, terrified, and he'll offer to sell you his shares for practically nothing. The secret? You don't have to listen to him. Ever. You can take advantage of his crazy moods, but you never, ever let his emotions become your emotion.
And this famous quote from Graham just nails the whole idea. In the short run, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it is a weighing machine. What's that mean? Well, day to day, stocks go up and down based on popularity, on votes, on hype and fear. But over time, what matters is the actual substance, the weight of the business, its earnings, its assets. Buffett learned to ignore the daily poll and focus on what the company would actually weigh on the scale. So, okay, that's the theory, but how did he actually use this stuff? With something he called the Cigar Butt approach. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of gritty. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a soggy, half-smoked cigar someone's thrown away. Gross, right? But there's one good puff left in it, and it's free. That's the strategy. You find these ugly, unloved companies that Wall Street has tossed in the gutter. Companies that are often worth more, sold off for parts, liquidated, than as a running business. It's not sexy, but hey, that one last puff of profit, it's all yours. So armed with this toolkit, margin of safety, Mr. Market, cigar butts, Buffett was ready. He didn't just sit around theorizing. He went out and made 2 plays, 2 legendary investments that put all this into practice and really lit the fuse on his first million. First step, Dempster Mill. This was the poster child for Cigar Butt investment, a struggling windmill maker out in Nebraska. I mean, the business itself was going nowhere fast. But Buffett, he didn't care. He wasn't buying the business, he was buying the balance sheet. He saw that the company's assets, all the stuff it owned, its inventory, was worth way, way more than what the stock market said the whole company was worth. It was the classic dollar for 50 cents play. But here's where it gets really interesting. Buffett didn't just buy the stock and wait. No way. He got his hands dirty. He became an activist investor. He bought up enough stock to take control of the company, brought in this tough new manager, and together they just went to work. They sold off all that useless inventory that was just collecting dust and turned it into cold, hard cash. Just look at the change here. Cash on hand goes from basically nothing to over $1 million. He essentially turned a dying windmill factory into his own personal piggy bank. Financially, it was a massive win, a total home run. But for him, personally, he absolutely hated it. The fights, the firing people, he later called it a deeply unpleasant and searing experience. And that told him something crucial about himself. He was a brilliant investor, a master at allocating capital. He was not a manager who enjoyed fixing broken things. He realized he'd much rather just buy a great business in the first place.
So his next huge investment couldn't have been more different. It's 1963, and this insane scandal hits American Express. It's called the Salad Oil Scandal. A company had tricked Amex into giving them loans backed by huge vats of salad oil. The only problem? The vats were filled with seawater. The oil didn't exist. When the news broke, Wall Street, as you can imagine, completely lost its mind.
The stock got hammered. It was sliced almost in half, dropping from $60 down to $35. Our old friend, Mr. Market, was having a full-on meltdown, screaming that American Express was doomed. But Buffett, remembering Graham's lessons, didn't see a disaster. He smelled an opportunity. And I don't mean he nibbled. He went all in. He took 40%, 40 of all the money in his partnership and plowed it into American Express stock. This was a massive bet the farm kind of move, an act of pure conviction flying directly in the face of what everyone else on Wall Street was doing. Now, this is the crucial part. This is what made this bet so different from Dempster Mill. He wasn't betting on hard assets you could touch. He was betting on something you couldn't. He did his own legwork, what investors call scuttlebutt. He literally went to restaurants, to banks, and asked people, "Hey, are you still using your Amex cards and traveler's checks?" And the answer was yes. He realized the scandal, as bad as it was, hadn't touched the one thing that mattered, the trust people had in the brand. He was betting on an idea, an economic moat. For a cigar butt guy, this was a massive evolution in his thinking. And this new way of thinking, this pivot towards focusing on the quality of a business and not just how cheap it was, well, it all came into perfect focus when he met the man who'd become his partner for life, Charlie Munger. Munger basically looked at what Buffett was doing and gave him this one piece of advice that changed the entire game. He said, "Warren, forget what you know about buying fair businesses at wonderful prices. Instead, you need to buy wonderful businesses at fair prices." Think about that. He's saying, stop digging through the trash for cigar butts. The real, lasting fortunes are made by buying fantastic, high-quality companies, even if you have to pay a fair price for them. So you see how it all connects? You take that painful lesson from his childhood, you add in Ben Graham's incredible toolkit, you mix in the real-world experience from those tough activist plays, and then you top it all off with Charlie Munger's wisdom. What you get is a clear blueprint. This is the philosophy that didn't just make him his first million, it made him all the billions that followed. All right, so let's boil it all down into the final blueprint. Step 1, don't lose money. That's job number 1. Your margin of safety is your shield. Step 2, think like a business owner, not a stock trader.
You're buying a piece of a company, so do your homework. Do the scuttlebutt. Step 3. Be greedy when others are fearful. When Mr. Market is panicking about something like the salad oil scandal and you know better, that's when you bet big. And maybe the most important, step 4, never stop learning. Evolve. The move from just buying cigar butts to buying wonderful companies, that's the ultimate edge.
Which kind of brings us to the big question for all of us today, right? In a world of crypto and meme stocks and algorithms trading faster than we can blink, are these principles from, 70 years ago, patience, doing the hard work, focusing on value, are they more important than ever? Or are they just hopelessly outdated? Is this stuff a relic, or is it the answer? Something to think about.